America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm Hugh Hewitt, live in Studio West. That is, of course, Bob Dylan. Fetching Mrs. Hewitt and I spent yesterday afternoon and evening at A Complete Unknown movie, which is the biopic of Bob Dylan. And I was a little reluctant to go to it, but it's terrific. All I can tell you is Timothy Chalamet as Dylan, Monica Barbaro as Joan Baez, and quite remarkably, Edward Norton as Pete Seeger. Did not see that coming. Boyd Holbrook as Johnny Cash, didn't see that coming. Ellie Fanning, very good, as the girlfriend, Sylvia Russo. But the most important thing is that Chalamet pulled it off. And it's, of course, New Year's Eve. I don't expect you to go to the movies on New Year's Eve, but some of you hate football in America, and you'll need a movie tomorrow. And I think the whole career arc of young Dylan in Manhattan up through the Newport Beach Folk Festival debacle or breakthrough, whatever you want to call it, of 1965, interesting idea for a movie. Doesn't attempt to do too much. Whoever... I'm always looking for authenticity in a period piece. Whoever did 1960 through 1965 on this film, well done. But Chalamet nailed it. And the young... I saw... The only time I saw Dylan in his youth was November of 1975 when the Rolling Thunder Revue came to the Boston Music Hall. And it's the greatest show I ever saw. And you never know when you're going to go see the greatest show you ever saw. Hey, Generalissimo, did you come in today?
Yeah, I'm here.
What's the greatest rock and roll show you ever saw?
The greatest rock and roll show I saw was Pink Floyd.
Year?
when was it? 1998, 99, 2000?
Venue?
Saw them at the LA Sports Arena.
Hey, Adam Youngman.
Yeah.
Best concert you ever been to?
I'd probably say back at the Universal Amphitheater in 97.
All right.
Back. I wouldn't listen to that with your ears.
No, I'm not a Beck guy. But then again, I'm not a Pink Floyd guy, though everyone else was listening to it. Harley, you go to concerts?
Yeah, I've been to a few.
Best concert?
I've also seen Beck, but it wasn't my top. I saw Herbie Hancock, big jazz fan.
Ooh, out of left field with the kid for the win. Herbie Hancock. No, guys, I'm sorry. You'll never match the Rolling Thunder Revue. The Fetching Mrs. Hewitt puts her Paul McCartney concerts up top. And other people all have favorite concerts, but you'll never top the Rolling Thunder Revue. November 21st, 1975, Boston Music Hall. 2 shows. I went to the 4 o'clock show. And being a naive boy from Ohio who had arrived there only a year and 3 months earlier, wasn't prepared for the dope being passed up and down the music hall, and was astonished by Roger McGuinn, astonished by Joni Mitchell. Joan Baez came out and sang, this was after Blood on the Tracks had come out, and she sang the Lily Rosemary and the Jack of Hearts, which was a remarkable piece for Joan Baez to prepare. And then Dylan just did Dylan. Who knows what he played? He played everything. New stuff, old stuff, stuff that sounded new but was in fact old and he'd redone it. Maybe, and the only Nobel laureate musician in ever. And that's something. That's a lot. But the movie is very well done. And I was so skeptical. So I wanted to begin my New Year's Eve show by saying, one resolution that you can make is to go see A Complete Unknown. And then you go see it tomorrow instead of watching the Rose Bowl if you are anti-American. And if you're anti-American, you can go see... This isn't really anti-American. It's very... I mean, they downplay the fact that Pete Seeger was a communist. But Edward Norton did a fine job playing a middle-aged folk singer in 1963, 64, 65. We had a little Woody Guthrie background. We got home, did our research on Woody Guthrie. I don't know much about Seeger other than he's a lefty and a communist, and that's okay. He was a good singer. I didn't don't know anything about Woody Guthrie other than I know he was ill all the time, and now I have the backstory on that. But the Dylan story goes on. There's more Dylan coming. The guy continues to tour. I made the mistake of going to see him at the Orange County Fairgrounds, which is a pretty good venue, actually. That's where I went and saw not Huey Lewis, not Hootie and the Blowfish. I thought I was buying 4 tickets to see Hootie and the Blowfish, and I ended up with 8 tickets to Huey Lewis and the News, which was a fine concert, especially since the one before it or after it, I can't remember, was Dylan, and for 2 reasons. One, it was terrible. He doesn't sing well anymore, and you have no idea what he's playing because he's always riffing. And then, it's sort of like Joe Biden. There's a cutoff for everything, including touring. Even if you're the greatest singer-songwriter of the last 60 years, you got to stop sometime. And then, of course, I was seated in the amphitheater, 5 rows behind the guy who was probably 22, and felt obliged, unlike everyone else who was there, to stand with a Dylan hat, sort of a Dylan brim, a lid that's kind of hip, to stand in tribute to Dylan for the whole show, right in front of me. So we ended up switching seats. Always drives me nuts that people are unaware of their surrounding. Here's another New Year's resolution for you. If you go to anything that has standing and sitting, don't stand the whole time. You're going to have to stand some of the time. Like the last 3 minutes of a football game. If it's tight and they're going back, you stand up. The last 30 seconds of a hoops game that's within 4, you stand up. You stand up at concerts for encores. You stand up for the President of the United States when they come in. There are places to stand up. You don't stand up during an entire concert of bad music by Bob Dylan. All that being said, today is New Year's Eve. 1-800-520-1234. We do resolutions, and I suggest resolutions for you. My resolution is the same one. I already got it this year. Nailed it with the Implacable Hill yesterday. The Implacable Hill is the rise, and it's a pretty good hill. I got up it yesterday, 4 miles, and a little bit sore this morning. So I got my relief factor out early today because I woke up. Oh, I said, that was the Implacable Hill. Here's my carryin curcumin resveratrol and omega. Taking it right now. Because after the show, I've got to get out there again and go back up the Implacable Hill. And then tomorrow down to the Orange County beaches, where I like to do holiday trundles. We bring you tomorrow Dr. Larry of Hillsdale College and I in our annual Introduction to the West. It's sort of like your one-stop shopping center for getting started understanding where the West comes. Like my first lecture, if there's a law student out there, what you're going to hear in the first lecture, why are we reading American history? And Wilfred McClay's Land of Hope. And it's the best textbook on U.S. history. And given the rise of the new originalism, which means what did the constitutional provision or the statutes, plain language, mean to the public at the time it entered into law? Not so hard, pretty easy to do, but that's what they meant. But we got to know how we got there. So the first day of law school for me, for 27, when I started teaching in 1995, I guess it's now 30 years. First class, how did we get here? How did you and the chairs get here? And how did we get here to a law school in 2026? In 2025, with them graduating in 2026? And the answer is small and big. There's a small history, your history. I hope you know it. Some people don't have the capacity to know it. They don't know how they got here. They don't know who their parents were, their grandparents, or great-grandparents. They're just here. And then there's all of us Americans, and we got here, and I stress to them, you have to know 5 civil. You got to know the Jews, you got to know the Greeks, you got to know the Romans, you got to know the Brits, you got to know the Americans. I am not so much on the Jews, the Greeks, and the Romans, too much to teach, not enough time. But I do a little bit on the British Empire, the Glorious Revolution of 1688, the colonies taking advantage of the Brits looking the other way. And then we move on to American history with Land of Hope. But I already move up the hill. I'm going back up the Implacable Hill thanks to my relief factor. I want all of you to go out as your first New Year's resolution and go to Relief Factor. Their website is relieffactor.com. Order that starter pack for $19.95, relieffactor.com. Or you can get Relief Factor by calling their number 1-800-4-RELIEF. And you'll thank me. That's another New Year's resolution. More New Year's resolutions